to Mental Perspectives. This is the third episode. Today we're talking with rexn0r. The general topic will be streaming or starting a business, or in general, if you build something for yourself, make sure it's something that makes you happy. As we both have changed our games as a streamer and realized that doing something that makes us actually happy was a good decision. I think we have a couple interesting talking points here. But for starters, please introduce yourself, Rex.
Hello, everybody. My name is Vega, or you may know me as rexn0r. I am a Twitch streamer from Norway. I am 30 years old. Aside from streaming, I work full-time in a home for adults with different mental disabilities. And I am also a physiotherapist from before.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Perfect. So yeah, we let's, I don't know, I think it might be cool if you just start with how you changed, what you changed, and how then changed for you.
Could you specify a little bit more what you mean?
In terms we have talked about you were basically more of a Tarkov streamer before.
Yeah, that's true.
You stopped being happy about that.
Yeah, so like Deevoz mentioned, I started out playing Escape from Tarkov as my one and only streaming game, which is, if you don't know the game, it's I would call it a fairly hardcore shooter mil sim type of game, which I consider myself to be fairly good at. I was always, kind of top tier in the game. I've played the game for roughly 3,000 hours. So it's one of the games that I've been playing the most and consider myself to be better at. And my perspective, I guess, when I started playing the game was that because I am so good at the game, this is something that I should be streaming, or this is something that people will enjoy watching because I'm good at it. But like you mentioned, as you keep going and you keep doing the things that you think that someone would want to watch, it's not necessarily what will make you happier or enjoy what you're doing in the long run. And so I was playing the game for roughly 3-4 months straight. I was streaming multiple days of the week, and basically just kind of more and more. So I guess the more I grew as a streamer, I felt that I was forcing myself to play that game because I was afraid that, if I was to switch the game, for instance, that people would not want to watch anymore, or I would play something that I wasn't as good at, and therefore it would be, less enjoyable content. And so I guess at the end of it, it was more like a chore than anything else, really.
Yeah, and I can absolutely relate to that, since I came from a very similar spot, and I played Dead by Daylight as a main game as a streamer for 10 months roughly, and roughly halfway through I kind of stopped enjoying playing the game, and I just kept streaming it because I felt like, hey, I'm a Dead by Daylight streamer, I'm a stream fucking Dead by Daylight, even though it wasn't the thing that I really enjoyed anymore. And to explain it from a perspective, if you never were streaming on Twitch, or if you don't know that whole environment as much, changing your game on Twitch is actually a big deal. If you had a main game and people come to you to see that one game, and you change that one game, it will also mean that a lot of people won't stop by anymore because they only wanted to see that one game. That's also I don't wanna shade anyone here. It's absolutely fine if you want to see a thing. It's your free time. See the thing that you want to see. That's not the point. But the point it is a bit of a scary step to do something else, because you don't know if there's still anyone there.
For sure, you're absolutely right about that. And I guess that's kind of what I felt as well at the time. I was worried, and especially, and you know this as well, because you're also I would call us both starting streamers, right? Even though we've both seen a moderate amount of success. I forgot what I was where I was going with this, honestly. But yeah, like you got to work really hard for whatever you get right in the beginning, as you might know,
Yeah.
or may not know. There was some statistics released recently about Twitch streamers, and how 90% of all Twitch streamers have an average viewership of 5 or less viewers.
Okay.
And so you can imagine, if you work really hard with whatever game it might be. For you, it was Dead by Daylight. For me, it was Escape from Tarkov. You build up this like core community, who might be people that are mainly there to watch the game, because in the beginning, like, you haven't really developed your persona, should I call it, or I don't even know if that's the right word, but you haven't really like found your way. You haven't like really gotten the experience that you need. A lot of people drop by, they see something that they like. It might be that you're good at the game. It might be something else. And like you mentioned, a lot of them will be there for the game and not necessarily for you, especially in the start, I think. And so losing, or the fear of losing what you
Mhm.
worked so hard for, it can be very scary. And I think uh, both you and I have been in that situation, but I think that a lot of people probably drive themselves into the ground by trying to force something that is no longer what they're enjoying.
Absolutely. And this is like, I don't have so much insight about Tarkov streamers, but this is a thing I hear very much from Dead by Daylight streamers. Like a couple different ones actually. Like they say the moment they play a different game that's not Dead by Daylight, they see a significant cut. I assume it's a bit like that with every game, but it's a very spooky thing because, like as you said, you worked quite long to get where you are, and all of a sudden that work is kind of gone because you decided to make a switch. But we still want to like talk about what changed for like maybe even for the better. By still changing, by still taking the step.
And you know what I realized though, when I did make that change, is that to my uh, I guess it kind of surprised me that some people actually still stuck around with me
Mm,
after doing that. But I can also say that uh, I definitely saw a decrease in viewership, in terms of a lot of the people, a lot of the what I would call regulars from whenever I played Tarkov, definitely they still came by like in the start, but eventually they started kind of like dropping off. So it's definitely a certain degree of truth to that whole thing.
mm,
Uh, but I would still say that it was the right call to make, because I was having more fun
mm,
after the switch, and more fun led to more growth and more success. And I think at the end of the day, like, if you're enjoying what you're doing, then people will also enjoy watching it. And funny enough, there are still people to this day, even though I quit Tarkov probably 3-4 months ago, since I really played it
mm.
a whole lot. There are still people from the early days that still come by, even though they might not hang out for as long or anything like that. But
Mm.
kind of surprised me though.
Absolutely. And I made like a similar experience there. There was quite a couple of people that decided to stay with me happily or luckily. It's like a couple of them even picked up Hunt Showdown all of a sudden, which
Yeah,
is super cool actually. So actually, quite a couple of people said, "Oh yeah, that game looks actually fun. Let me try it." And now we have a couple more people that play Hunt.
yeah.
Um,
It's definitely like a very interesting observation, I should say, because like the effect that you have as a streamer as well. Because I also had the opposite way around. I also had people suddenly picking up Tarkov,
mhm.
even after I quit. It was like, because I can still speak highly of the game. It's not that I don't like the game anymore. It's just that I've kind of overdone it a little bit,
Yeah,
and kind of forced myself to do things that I wasn't necessarily enjoying as much anymore. But as much as that is true, I also still love the game, so I can still speak highly of it and recommend it to others. And multiple members of my community has actually picked it up and are now playing Tarkov, even though I'm like
you
mainly a hunt
stopped.
streamer these days. It's kind of funny.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think like the general message in that is also like a realization that or like I guess you two had. It's like if you build something for yourself, it's kind of not worth as much if it's not something you enjoy.
Absolutely.
And this is kind of coming from a privileged position. I'm well aware that a lot of people need to go to work like every single day to just make enough money so they can have like food and housing and whatever like you need for your basic needs. But if you start to venture part like outside of that realm of making money to survive, and if you build you something for yourself, if it's not something you enjoy, you're just stuck in the same wheel, in the same loop that you were in before, just that you this time built your own loop that you don't enjoy.
Absolutely. And it's like, I would go as far as to say that streaming for me, because it's kind of like I would say that it's been a dream of mine for many years, like way, way before I even started. Like the web camera that I'm using right now, even though I started streaming 9 months ago, it's probably 3 or 4 years ago since I bought it. And the only reason why I bought it was because I wanted to stream. Like that goes to show like how you might have a dream, but you're afraid to follow it, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, like streaming, what it is for me and what is I think also been crucial for the success that I've seen so far and all the growth and the community that I have currently, and that I am fortunate enough to be part of. It all has to do with like the passion and the fact that I'm, for the first time I think in my life, I feel like I'm doing something that I really like, I'm truly passionate about. Like I have had many different jobs. I have worked as a physiotherapist. I have worked as a personal trainer and nutritionist. I've enjoyed that work, but it never felt anything like what it did when I started streaming. Like I don't know if it was like that for you, but when you had one of your first, like what you probably would consider a great stream, when you first started out, when you like had that one stream where there was a lot of people that came by, or something amazing happened and you were able to share it with other people, and it just gave you that like that rush, that feeling of like you were floating afterwards. Like I don't know if that's happened to you, but that happened to
Absolutely.
me a few times, and it's just like an insane feeling. And just for the first time, I'm feeling like I'm doing something for me.
Yeah.
That is not because like anyone expects it of me, not because anyone told me I should be doing this, but because I always wanted to do this, and I finally took that step, and I kind of like threw myself into something where I need to work at this on my own, and it's going to be really damn hard. Like no one is going to be holding your hand. You're starting with absolutely zero experience. Like I knew nothing when I started. Like my girlfriend showed me how to start my stream because I had no idea. She had some previous experience. She had been streaming like a little bit before me, very casually. She like told me which program to install. She told me like how she helped me set up my live scenes. That's the point where I was at 9 months ago.
Okay.
And I knew nothing about like video editing. I knew nothing about like sound or graphics design or anything like that. And I had to figure all of it out on my own without any help. And it's like, I am so happy that I did all that, because like those are all things like, even, if I end up not streaming, let's say a few years from now or whatever, and it turns out this didn't work out the way that I wanted, I'm still going to be so happy that I did this, because I actually did something that I wanted to do.
Yes, absolutely. And it's like it's very similar for me. Like I don't know, I was in college. I got my degree as a psychologist. I after that started to work for a healthcare company. Was there for 3 years. Did like all different stuff. But in the end, I just kind of quit the job because I was like on the verge of a burnout. And that's where I like the first time realized, if I don't do what makes me happy, I'll just burn out and be like the next person in the health system that is dragging it down. In a I don't know, I don't judge people that run into that burnout, because I just realized how fast that can fucking happen. Like you don't pay attention to your health as much because you work all the time. And all of a sudden you notice like 10 out of 11 symptoms of a burnout. And then you start to realize that you're doing everything wrong and you need to change. And funnily enough, it was a bit similar with like switching the games. Because again, I stayed too long with a thing that I stopped enjoying. Like I always enjoyed streaming. I always enjoyed talking to people. I always enjoyed like that interaction. That is like the fun part. The game itself, for me personally, is very exchangeable, but it's not exchangeable for the people watching, obviously.
Yeah, and that is something that I think if we go to like the whole perspective thing there, I mentioned in the start of the podcast today that like when you start out, you tend to play something that you think you're good at or that you think someone will watch, and that's like the priority. Like the priority is to provide quality gameplay, or like I'm going to be showing you guys like how to play this game correctly or
Mm,
how to do well in this game. For me, that was like it was almost like I hit a switch because I remember for the start of my streaming, what do you call it, the streaming career or whatever you
mm,
will, it was always like, how can I grow as a streamer? How can I get ahead here and like get more viewers, get more whatever it might be, right?
mm,
And then after a while, I remember there were a couple of people that I started getting raids, right? Like you do as a streamer, people start sending their communities over to you, and
mm,
I suddenly had that one day where there were actually, I think it was two different streamers that raided me together. They sent
mm,
their people over, and they were like being really nice, and they were giving me some subscriptions, some subs to the channel, and everything like that.
mm,
And on that day, I would mark that as the day that I changed my entire perspective of what it means to be a streamer,
mm,
and what I consider to be important. Because I from that day I started realizing that having a network and making friends and building a community is what it's actually about, right? And I would say that I have been enjoying it, the whole process, the whole experience, so much more after that. Because when you realize that it's all about building a community and making friends and sharing this experience with other people, then it doesn't actually matter anymore what kind of game you play. It
mm,
doesn't actually matter if you switch the game and some people follow you to the next game, some people don't. But either way, you got all these amazing friends that are sharing this journey with you, and you got all these like regular, call it supporters, viewers,
mm,
friends, whatever you want to call it. I guess there were maybe all of those things.
mm,
um, but they're gonna stick with you no matter what. Like they're gonna, even if they don't enjoy the game, they might just be there for the conversations. They might just be there to uh, ask you about your day, and then maybe move on. But that's okay. That's kind of
mm.
like all a part of it. But you have this like amazing community around you that
Absolutely.
kind of just keeps growing as you grow as a streamer as well. And yeah, that's where we're at, I think.
Yeah. That was an interesting question in chat. Are you anxious about the risk of failing, and how do you handle it?
Is that directed to me or like generally speaking?
Like I'm going to answer it as well, but please feel free to answer it as well too.
Am I anxious of failing? So I think to answer that question, I would say like I got to look at my overall situation in life,
Mm,
because I am currently in a job that was never the plan. Like
okay.
the job that I am working right now was never the job that I wanted, nor is it the dream job. It is by all means a very important job. But before I started streaming, I would say I was more anxious of failing in that department. But what that job allows me to do is to follow my passion, which is streaming.
Mm,
Because I work, as you already know, Deevoz, but some people might not, is I work very long shifts.
mm,
I work 13 and a half hour shifts, typically 3 days in a row. And then I get some days off where I
mm,
can, do whatever. And in this case, doing whatever means streaming as
mm,
much as possible. And so what I'm actually doing here is I am working two full-time jobs the way
mm,
I see it. Like I am working 13 and a half hour shifts 3 days a week, and then I stream for the other 4 days.
mm,
And that is absolutely rough. If you went back a few years and asked me if I wanted to do anything on those days off, no, I would never.
mm,
Like, because you're exhausted, right? And somehow I still find the passion to like keep going and keep forcing myself to do this.
mm,
So am I, to answer the question though, am I afraid of failing? Yes and no, because the way I see it, I have this full time job. It pays my bills. I would have been working this job anyway. Like
mm,
I'm not losing out on throwing myself at this and following this path and trying to to make the best of it. So the way I see it, I have nothing to lose
Mm.
on doing this. I am following my passion. I'm following my dreams. If it fails, it fails.
Mm.
As far as I'm concerned, I've already done much better than I ever thought I would.
Mm.
Let alone at least in this time span. I mean, it's been less than a year,
Mm.
and I've already got this amazing community around me. Um, I would say probably not afraid of failing, but uh, like I really hope that I don't, because
Mm.
I would like nothing more than to succeed in this path, in this journey. And as you probably know, like my end goal is to hopefully, possibly at some point, make this my full-time occupation. So like, because that is definitely what I would like to do if I could choose anything in life that I would like to work with, or work on for the rest of my working career. That would probably be streaming and content creation.
Yeah.
So in that way, I guess I might be a little bit afraid of failing, because that would be very disappointing,
Mm.
but I would still not regret anything. I would still have wanted to do this, even if it turned out to never work out the way that I hoped it would.
Absolutely. I think that's a very good point that I would agree as well. The fact like that I will never regret what I did for this past year, because I think it was a great experience. I've met a ton of like really cool people. Many of them I would call friends at that point, and including you. It's been a great ride. And on the question of anxiety, I'm in a bit of a different spot than you are, because I decided to start two businesses at the same time. At the one hand, I decided to be a streamer now, and to do the streaming because it's something I always wanted to try. I always wanted to do, and I did that. And this is like what is like super fun for me. And on the other side, I decided to make myself self-employed as well, as like a psychologist with counseling and holding lectures. And the thing is, if like none of these things work out for me, I'm in a bit of a predicament. So the way I handle it currently is to just forge on a plan B. If like the self-employment thing doesn't work out for me the way it should, but I will probably not give up on streaming. Like after all, then I'll look for a different job to like give me money and do less streams. I guess that's like the way I would handle it. But yeah, there definitely is anxiety. It's a bit of an existential fear that everything I did was completely in vain, and I will sit on the streets tomorrow. Which, don't worry, will not happen. But still, it is a bit of a scary journey.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and that's what I mean. Like for me, I guess I am in, as exhausting as it might be, I'm in like a golden position where like I cannot fail technically,
Mm.
because I'm working a full-time job that pays as much as it would, regardless of whether I was streaming or not. So for me, it's not so much a question of failing like economically,
Mm.
uh, but more like like you say, like an existential crisis. That
Mm.
if your life's passion doesn't work out, then obviously that's a sad thing. But either way, I'll be fine. It's not like I will either end up on the street or anything else, like you said.
Yeah.
Uh, but then there's the part where you work yourself to the bone, because you got this full-time job that is kind of like tearing at you, and then you also got to work at it full-time, and then people are asking me like, I don't know how you do it. Like, how do you work this job and also stream as much as you do? And the answer is like, the only answer is that I am so passionate about this,
Mm.
that if I wasn't, then I would never do this, because it's crazy. Like,
Yes.
I wouldn't recommend doing this to anyone. And then you got to like limit yourself, and force yourself to take days off, and like things like that.
Mm.
Like today, for instance, I was supposed to be streaming, but I just realized that I've been pushing myself so hard lately. I got to make sure that I don't run into the wall,
Yeah.
because if I keep forcing myself, it's not going to be good for anyone. And that also kind of brings it back to like the whole point of like, you should be doing what you're enjoying, because nobody enjoys being completely exhausted,
Mm.
and that is a part of it. You got to like realize your limitations, and not force yourself to do anything, whether it be the game that you choose to play, or how often you choose to stream, or how hard you decide to like go after it,
Absolutely.
because you will burn out if you do, in one way or another.
I mean, maybe in the end of this conversation, we can go through the burnout symptoms just to Like have them inside the podcast for people that might not realize they're already in it. Because like it was kind of a stupid situation since like I learned this shit in university, and still it took me super super long to realize that I run like enough symptoms to be clinically diagnosed with burnout already. Okay, we got a question from Tweak here. While you are busy growing and perhaps your big goal being to get an income out of it, have you ever stood still if you're ready to become a social influencer and how you can affect people and their opinions, or even become a target for harassment or for whatever reason? I would say, like, I don't know. I've been playing Dead by Daylight. I've been a target for harassment for the past 9 months. It is like kind of I guess I'm already used to that, so I'm not very afraid of being the target for harassment, since like when you play Dead by Daylight, you will get people on a daily basis that send you death threats, are unhappy with your game style, and wish that your, I don't know, parents explode on the moon or something. It is a bit of a very toxic community. So I'm not really afraid of harassment. Talking about way bigger goals than just people coming in and saying you suck. I mean, after all, it is always a bit like that. You always have like that fear that people don't agree with what you do. I ask myself the question if I'm ready for it, and I think I am. How about you?
I would say the same, actually. I never thought, I've never been a guy that wanted to be in the spotlight in terms of like he says, like being an influencer or affecting how people perceive themselves or perceive life or perceive a certain role, like being a streamer, for instance. I guess I would always I've always been like an entertainer type, though. Like I always like to be the center of attention in class when I was younger and I was in school and things like that. So I think I have that in me. But I never liked being like the main focus, or like, you got those situations where you're up on stage in front of the class or something like that. That always made me uncomfortable. But what I realized, I think, after I started streaming is that I've got something in me that I didn't knew existed.
Mhm.
Like being a streamer and being like in the center of attention, like you are now when you are a streamer, just came more natural to me than I ever thought it would.
Mhm.
And so I can also see myself, making it within that role of being like an influencer, or a type of person that people look up to, or look to for answers, or things like that, if it ever comes to that, like to some degree. I guess I already am starting to get more and more attention, and people start to recognize you, whether it be on the stream or whether it be like in your community or in other connected communities. Like people might look up to you because you've done something that they would also like to do or achieve, so to some degree, I guess we were already kind of starting that path, even though I would say it's far from being what I would call it being an influencer, though. I guess to some people you might be exactly that,
Mhm. I feel the same way. I feel like that I already had the experience that I influenced how people would, or how or that I did influence opinions, even if it was in the small scale on how to play a game and how to interact with others in that game. But it is. I feel like there already was the experience. Also, I had the feedback that one guy stopped smoking because they saw me vaping, which was pretty cool, honestly. Like that's a pretty cool interaction that has been there. And then they asked me about vaping. I gave them a couple tips, and they stopped smoking. That's I don't know. I see that as a huge thing happening in terms of being an influencer, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess in similar ways, like I made a TikTok a few months ago about my journey
Mhm.
as a starting streamer, and like the focus was it was basically a TikTok where I put some clips from my journey, like when I was starting out, and you could tell that everything was like really poorly set
Mhm.
up, and it was like poor, like everything was bad and things like that. And then as the viewership grew and the quality grew, like that was kind of like the gist of it, right? Like if I can do it, then so can you, right? And the feedback that I got on that was like really overwhelming in a way, because there was so many people telling me that, like, okay, you know what, I was going to give up, but I'm going to actually try now. I have been wanting to do this for so and so long, and this made me want to give it a shot, even though I've been scared to try. And so in that way, I guess we are already in a position where we can actually influence people in the way that they look at their own capabilities, and the way that they look at what they can do with their lives if they really want to, and to connect with you and to identify with you in a way. So to some degree, I guess we're already in that role, whether we like it or not. And that's just something that you gotta accept. As you grow as a personality on the internet, whatever it might be, your people are going to start noticing you and start to, like, try to identify with you, like I said. And that's just how it is. That's part of it. That's part of the job, if you can call it that.
Yeah. So next question, or like maybe probably not only streamers influence viewers, but viewers also influence streamers. That's another good point, and I would say that is also true.
Yeah, for good or bad, I would say.
Yeah.
Like and you gotta have like a strong mentality to be able to deal with that. I think that a lot of people can get ruined by that if you don't know how to handle it, or if you don't know how to stand up for yourself. I have, because on one side you got the negative perspective, right? You got people, for instance, especially if you're like a gamer streamer, then people will sometimes come in there to trash talk you. They will say bad things about you, or try to make you feel bad or insecure about yourself. On the other side, you have people praising you and like telling you how amazing you are and how great you are and how great your stuff is, like your content is, or how great your community is. Like, it could be either good or bad. But I have had multiple scenarios where people have told me about situations where someone either in their community or someone watching their streams have made them feel really bad about themselves, have made them feel insecure about themselves, have made them lost will to keep streaming, or whatever it might be. It could be because of things that they have been struggling with in their lives from before, from the past, things they've been through that trigger something in them when they hear certain things being said, or it could just be in general, like you work really hard and then suddenly someone comes into your channel and tells you how bad you are, or makes remarks on your looks or whatever. And you got to kind of like learn how to stand up for yourself. So definitely, I would say that viewers or people, doesn't have to be viewers, like people in general, when you are a person, a public person, I guess you could say, people will to some degree influence you as well.
Definitely. And yeah, as Rick says, viewers are the bone of interaction. Otherwise, we would just scream into the void. That is very obvious. I've been very lucky that I never was part of a Twitch drama so far, at least to my knowledge. I might have not realized that I'm in, but I don't think I was. And I'm kind of praying that it stays that way, because I don't really have any interest in drama.
A funny story. It's not really a story, but a funny thing. When I started streaming, I remember the first time that I ever got remarks in my chat was someone came in and started making jokes about me being bald. And even though I never considered that to be a bad thing, or never really felt insecure about the fact, it was just like the fact that someone was suddenly calling you out for your appearance while you were live. It kind of like just hit like a sore spot in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then after a while, that just became like the biggest joke on my channel.
Yeah.
And now it's like, now I embrace it. Like, now I think that is really funny. And if someone came into my channel today and told me I was bald, I would just be laughing at it, and so would everybody else, right? And that kind of like shows how you kind of learn how to to deal with all these things, right? Because it's not a thing that you're used to in the beginning. You're not used to people commenting on your looks in a negative way, even though it might not be anything wrong with your looks. Like it could be, people are sometimes just out to hurt you, or they just want to trigger some sort of reaction in you.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of funny how that kind of changes as you go. And I think probably a lot of starting streamers struggle with that too. Like I don't think necessarily that everybody has it in them to deal with that, because it can be a very rough thing. It really depends what it is, of course, and like the nature of the remarks and things like that. But something as tame as commenting on someone being bald, for instance, it's like it can. I think for some people that can really hurt. Even though for me it didn't really. It was more that I got thrown off, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah.
And didn't know how to deal with it at the time. So yeah, people can definitely affect the way that you look at yourself or how confident you feel. And then you have those people that come in there and they tell you like how amazing you are and how good your content is, like I mentioned before. And I think those people have also played a major role, like an absolutely insane role in my entire journey. Because without mentioning any names, I got friends around me in my community that have single-handedly completely changed the way that I look at myself and what I am capable of, and has motivated me through the hard times as well. Because as well as it's been going a lot of the time, we all have those days where we feel like, I'm not performing anymore, or today I don't know if I'm doing the right thing, or I'm not sure if this is going how I wanted it to go, or today wasn't the best stream, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And then just having those kind words from some people could also completely just change your mentality and change the way you look at it and motivate you to keep going, even though today wasn't the best day,
Absolutely. I'll get to the previous question a bit later, Tweak. Do we ever fear that the streaming, like I don't want to call it fame, but I guess the fame changes our personality?
I suppose to a degree it does, because you try to stay humble as a streamer. When I started out, I was very humble. I was very appreciative of everything. Like the slightest thing would mean the world, whether it would be just getting that one extra follower, getting the first subscription to your channel that you ever got, the first donation that you ever got. That was like insane, right? Like
Absolutely.
You would be so grateful.
Yeah.
And the more you grow, I guess it's probably to some degree inevitable that you don't, even though you try to, it's hard to appreciate it as much as you did in the start, because as you grow, then so does everything else. The standard is raised, like the bar is raised. And even though to this day I still appreciate each and every follow and each and every subscription or whatever it might be, each and every kind word, you don't notice it as much as you did back then, because it was just such a big deal back then. I don't know if that answers the question, but I guess like what I'm saying is that you try to stay humble, and hopefully you keep staying humble always. But I think it is probably inevitable that you will change to some degree as you grow, and that is just kind of part of the journey. And you also probably have to detach yourself a little bit from the whole thing as you grow, because if you get too personally involved, that will possibly ruin you as well, I think.
Quite likely, yeah. I would agree. It is obviously like there is no, you cannot keep up the same feeling, the same emotion of something that happened to you the first time. Like you cannot recreate it. Like the first donation will always be the first donation. The first subscription will always be the first subscription, and that always is like you cannot recreate it. Obviously, I kind of have the idea that I won't change much, or I didn't change much over the time. At least not to a like more or a less humble person than I was before. But also, I mean, my self perception is always biased because it's me watching myself. So I don't know if I at some point have changed too much. Someone needs to tell me.
I can definitely say that I am less humble now than I was, but I am still. I will still say that I consider myself to be a humble person, but I think that the whole thing was that when I started out, I was fully aware, probably more than anyone else, that I was very incapable. Like I had no idea what I was doing. I had no followers. I had no community.
Mhm.
If someone told me like you don't know how to do this, I would just laugh and like I know that I don't know how to do this.
Yeah.
But like today, 9 months later, is like you start to realize that you are actually capable, that you are actually somewhat good at what you're doing, and that obviously your degree of success will also reflect that.
Mhm.
And so I think that automatically, at least I can only speak for myself, but that does make me a little bit less humble because I no longer take what people say without like making up my own opinions about it because maybe I don't agree with it, or maybe I know that's not true, for instance. And so I might not be as humble as I was, but then again, maybe I was too humble back then. So
I don't
there's
know if
that.
that's being humble or if that's actually a lack of skepticism. Like,
Yeah,
especially if you don't, like, if you have zero knowledge about a matter, you tend to be more naive, like, to other people's opinions. But the more you know about a matter, the more you will, like, be a bit more skeptical about their opinion. And I guess that's just, I wouldn't even say that's not humble anymore. That's just the way things go the moment you start knowing things about it.
it's probably true. But I guess there's a fine line regardless, and I do think that it's a very important thing to keep in mind and to always remember like what you originally started out or set out to be, and to not like lose your way as you go, because I think a lot of people do, and we see that with celebrities all the time, right? Like they may have started out as something that they weren't, and then you get to a certain like with an increasing degree of fame, even though we're like nowhere in that department at the moment. I think that the general trend is with great power comes great responsibility, and you probably tend to change as you realize that there are a lot of people looking up to you, and that you actually have the power to influence those people. And I think that is always something that you need to consider and keep in mind. It's going to be a more crucial matter the more you grow, I think.
Yeah. Another interesting question. What do y'all do if you feel like you aren't doing as well as you would like? So I feel like this is not easy to answer, even though Svanja already gave a pretty good answer. Um, in general, I would say I guess you can always do better, and this is why I don't have like I will never do as good as I would like to do because I would always like to do better. Like there is no limit. Like the sky is the limit. There's no oh man, today I really reached all my goals. That never happens, I feel. But like, in general, I would say self-compassion is a very important thing to learn and to work with, because if you don't if you're not compassionate about yourself, and if you're not like at the spot where you can accept that what you do is all you, or that what you do is good and what you wanted to do, you will constantly be in a struggle with yourself, and that usually ends up in anxiety, and that's generally not very very nice and healthy to have.
I think that whatever you are doing in life, whether it be a stream or a business, or it be your training regime, like your workout regime, or whatever it might be, you're always going to have rough spots. You're always going to have like plateaus where things stop working as well as you thought they would, and that's probably just kind of part of the process. And I think it's important to realize that that will eventually happen, even though you have your amazing days where everything seems to work out, and you have your what you could call like bad days, right? Where you don't feel like this was a good stream, or this wasn't a good workout, or this was not a great performance or whatever it might be, right? Could translate to anything in life, really.
Yeah.
Is to try and like distance yourself from it and to try and look at it without letting your personal feelings that day influence the way you look at uh, the whole thing. Um, what I personally do on those days, though, is I try to lean on my friends and just talk to people about how I feel about it, because even though I am fully aware that my bad days aren't bad, like my bad days today are what I would call an insane day like a couple of months ago, right? So it's
Mm.
still not bad. It's just the personal feeling that I have that day, maybe because I didn't sleep well and I'm having a bad day, or I'm just really tired, and I'm fully aware that what I'm feeling is not, the objective truth in the matter.
Mm.
But having people around you that support you, that you can talk to in these situations, and kind of like uh, talk about those feelings, and kind of like get some insight and get some feedback, and get to talk about the things that you worry about, can mean the world, actually.
Absolutely.
And I think that people generally see us whenever we're like at our best, right? They don't see the bad parts very often. They don't see that we are also just people, that we are also just normal people who happen to be streamers, who happen to put on a show that people enjoy watching, and we try to hopefully try to be ourselves and be as genuine as possible. But it's not like we're going to let the bad things out all the time, because that's not something that people want to watch, I think.
Yeah.
And so I mean, for myself, I try to like talk about these things. Like if I'm having a bad day and I'm tired, I will say that I'm not having the best day and I'm tired, but I'll also try to limit it to some degree.
Yeah.
And that's what friends are for, right? And that's why you talk to other people, you talk to other streamer friends who might have similar experiences, and you can get to relate in that department, and hopefully you have a community that is understanding, that will also understand that people are people and streamers are not different from anyone else.
True. I think it is a good strategy to be or like a strategy sounds like it's some strategy is a strong word. I think it's a good thing to be open about it, like to tell, like if you didn't have a good sleep, you feel a bit tired, a bit low energy, just like it's okay to say that. It's like with the whole. Okay, this goes a bit in a different direction, but it's generally like with all mental illnesses, we need to start to normalize them. Even though having a bad sleep overnight is not a mental illness, but still it's something completely common and normal that everyone experiences. And mentioning that this is affecting you right now is, at least in my opinion, an absolutely fine thing to do. You should probably not make your whole stream revolving about the topic that you're tired. I agree with you with that too, but still, it's absolutely fine to mention it.
Yeah. And if anything, I think showing people that you are also just a normal human being, and that you are uh, like everyone else in that way. I think if anything can probably just increase the bond that you have with your viewers, and they will uh, possibly end up relating more to you as a normal human being than someone who is putting on a show.
Mhm.
I think that you're actually being true to yourself, and that you're being genuine and real, and not trying to be something that you are not. And
Yeah,
I think that is very important.
definitely. Knowing there's going to be a certain dip in the future, maybe stagnant growth or lack of games to play, how do you prepare yourself mentally for that moment, or do you have a dedication to fight through that? I think I personally experienced quite a couple dips already. And I don't know, for my personal strategy is to just keep my chin up and think, yeah, tomorrow is going to be better. It's probably not the best coping strategy ever, but at least it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was like some sort of story, like someone walking in the woods and they couldn't see like through the whole thing, right? And then uh, the one person asked the other, "Well, can you see your next step?"
Mm.
And the other person says yes, and then he says like, "Yeah, well, then focus on that."
Mm.
And I think that's like how I try to look at it, because it's probably smart to have some sort of plan.
Mm.
Even though I don't have a grand like plan for my whole journey, and I have no idea like how it's gonna turn out or where I'm gonna be. I do know that if I'm going to be a streamer for years, then I will likely not be playing the same game in a few
Mm.
years that I am now, because people move on and games move on and they die out, and that's the way that it is.
Absolutely.
But I'm sure that if I focus like one step at a time, I'll probably get to the destination anyway, and I'll probably find a way around it. And hopefully, there will be a community to join me on that experience, I think.
Absolutely. All right. So if you would start, like, let's assume you never streamed before, but you had all the knowledge that you have today. What would you have changed? Like, what would you've done different?
I would have started way earlier than I did, because I
Right.
wanted to start years before I ever did. I remember picturing in my head, like when I was out walking at night, like I was walking home, I would picture like how I could turn my clips from playing other games into
Mhm.
like YouTube content and things like that. And I was like really excited about that, and it was like a dream, just playing in my head.
Mhm.
Uh, I think the best the best advice that I could give is to literally just get started, because you
Mhm.
have no idea how it's going to turn out. You don't know how it's going to be before you try.
Absolutely.
And for me, what actually ended up with me starting to stream was I was watching a YouTube video that had nothing to do with streaming, but
Mhm.
it triggered something in my mind that made me go like, okay, you know what, I'm gonna start tomorrow, and that's what I did. The
Mhm.
video was about something to do with financial investments. Funny enough, it had nothing to do with streaming, but it had something to do with, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Just, throw yourself at it. If it doesn't work, then you are one experience richer, and you will have learned something from it. And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, I don't think anyone ever regretted like trying to stream, because let's be real, there's no one watching in the beginning. No one will ever see that.
Yep.
It's just like you trying it out. You realize that you like it or you don't.
Yeah.
And if you like it, then hopefully it'll work out. Maybe you do it for a month, maybe you do it for a year, maybe it becomes your career. Who knows? But you will never know unless you try.
Yeah. Absolutely. So like, what helped me in that beginning stage, I was actually deciding to just stream in English, because I was like, if no one wants to watch me, at least I'm improving my English. I think that worked out pretty well in general, but that was a kind of a decision that made it easier. I think I personally, like, given I would start today, and I knew more things, I would have probably started with like TikTok, YouTube, and all that shit way earlier. Because after all, like, already knowing that like long videos are not worth the effort, and shorts is where it's at. That extra like 10 minutes after a stream to cut like one clip together to upload it is definitely a smart thing to do, and something you can get started with like just a few tools. So that's probably a thing I would have changed.
Yeah, you do learn all these things as you go. Like I said earlier as well, I knew absolutely nothing when I started,
Mhm.
and even though that was the case, after a while you learn like one skill after the other, and now I know basic drawing, and I know video editing to some degree, and all these things, right? And you learn how to network with other people, and
Mhm.
and all these things. And so back to my previous point is, if you just get started, even though you spend a year learning all these things, if
Mhm.
you start 2 years earlier, you're still year ahead, right? So it's like, I think
True.
there are such a vast majority of people that are interested in streaming, that never actually get started because they're afraid of failing.
Yeah.
And that is why my advice would be to just start, because even though you know nothing, I was also in the position, and now I do know something, even though I'm by no means an expert.
Yeah.
I will keep improving, I will keep growing, and getting better all the time, and you can as well.
Absolutely. And I would have, and that kind of leads us back to the initial topic. I would have stopped playing Dead by Daylight way earlier, like probably in November or something, which is like 5 months from now. I stopped. I think in February. I would have stopped way early, and focused more on things that I enjoy more than that game.
I think that's a fair point, because if you don't enjoy what you're doing, then people will not enjoy watching it. And it's very easy to tell if someone is not having a good time. And I don't think anyone really wants to spend their time watching someone having a bad time.
True.
So, whatever it might be, don't be so worried about what you think people might want to watch, but more what you enjoy to do, and hopefully that will work out.
Mhm.
And if it doesn't, then at least you're having fun,
Absolutely. That is. I think that is a very, very important point. If you like, you're already in the privileged position of being able to stream. Why not be privileged enough to just do what you enjoy instead while streaming? Even though that might mean that you like don't stream the most popular game right now, or like the most growth functioning game. Okay. Let me read through our points real quick. So if we try to like transfer that also like a bit away from streaming, more to like starting your own business, which is a thing that I experience at the same time. I think many of the points we have here are very, very usable on your own business as well. Like if you start to self-employ yourself to work like for no one but yourself, you will like probably also fail if it's not something that you enjoy. I mean, you can probably make a lot of money out of it if it's like a really good idea. But after all, we only have like that one confirmed life. There might be more lives, but we're not sure about it. So we should make our best effort to do what we enjoy during that one life.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right about how it like translates to anything else. I would consider starting a stream, at least if you have anything serious in mind, is nothing unlike any other business. It's the same thing. It is the same degree of dedication that is required. It is the same degree of networking and promotion and all that stuff that you need to do, and you need to learn all the things that you need to be able to do for your business. For an actual business, that might be financial things like the books, like doing the books and all that stuff. It might be other things similar to that, but in reality, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I don't think that people realize that, and sometimes they look at you funny if you're saying like, I look at my stream like I'm starting a business, because I've been doing that for a while. I didn't when I started out. I started out saying like this is just a hobby. The more I realized that this could actually be a thing, and this could potentially be my future occupation. Hopefully, it's a bit ahead in time. I started looking at it more as a business, and that is when I really started seeing growth. Because in the beginning, it was like very like unsystematical and messy, and I was streaming like for 2 hours here and 3 hours there, and mornings and evenings, and not streaming for a few days. And it was like very unpredictable and messy overall. When I started taking it more seriously and looking into all of these things and these aspects, is what I really like started to see. This is how I'm going to grow, because I'm treating it as a business.
Yeah.
Because I am looking at my network. I'm looking at how can I get to know more people and make friends, and how can we like grow our businesses together, if you want to look at it like that way. How can I promote my content, because nobody knows that I'm there. Like nobody knows about me, because I'm all the way at the bottom of the list out of thousands of people doing the same thing. And so you got to look at your promotion. And if that was a business, that would mean like going out on the street and talking to people, and making posters and making things on the internet to show people like, hey, I got this store here on this street, like I'm selling this product, right? You wouldn't just like open your doors and expect people to wander in there. If your life depended on it, if your economy depended on it, would you do that? Right? So it's like, if you really want to get somewhere, you have to treat it that way. You have to consider what it takes to make it, and look at it as any other business, but because that is really what it is. And that is the same thing if you're starting a business as well. Like don't just like open your doors and hope that people are gonna find it, because they won't.
Yeah, probably. So did you talk to your neighbors about it?
Not yet. I've considered it. But like there are millions of things that you could do, right? Like there are a lot of creative ideas that you could do. If we're talking about a stream or a business, like you could make cards and go out on the street and talk to people and hand them out. Like you could do that. My way of doing it currently is social media, and that works for me for now. But maybe at some point that's not going to work out as well as I hoped, or I want to take it to the next step. Maybe I'll go out and make a stand at some sort of supermarket or whatever. Like you can do all that kinds of stuff, but I think if you're trying to make something for yourself, you got to be creative. You got to be passionate about it. And I think that a lot of people who start streaming and complain about not making it are not making that effort that they think they are.
I'm not sure. I think I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. I've seen a couple of people like doing great effort and all that, but it's still rough. Like you still need that ounce of luck that pushes your way.
Oh yeah, for sure. And don't get me wrong. Like I'm not saying that there aren't examples of people making effort, but I have personally seen and talked to many people who claim like they ask me like how do you do it, like how do you get people to watch, and I've been doing this for 3 years and nobody's watching my channel, for instance. And then I go into their channel and there's no information about them, and there's nothing in there. Like they haven't set up anything, they haven't made the effort, the sound is bad, the video quality is bad and things like that. That's more what I'm talking about. And in that case, I think that some people think that this is something that is purely based on luck, where in reality is probably more of a combination. I think that if you want to succeed, then you should also prepare as best as you can and put in the effort, as much effort as you can, if you want to increase your chances of success. Because at the end of the day, it's probably to some degree a lot about luck as well. But if you prepare well and you put in all the effort, then the chances are that luck is going to strike you and not the next person, right?
Maybe, yeah. Sometimes it's that your character is not made for Twitch. Don't think it's luck. I'm not sure about that, because I think after all, like, there's always someone that would enjoy your character. And I rarely, I don't know, I think everyone would have something interesting about their character. It might not be for like everyone, but I don't know. What do you think about that? That is if the character is made for Twitch or not.
Well, so my personal opinion is that I think, even though I think luck is a part of it, I think that that dedication is way more important. And I do agree with you that I think everyone probably has something that people can enjoy watching. So I think whoever you might be, provided that you put in the effort and your passion is there, I think that you can. Maybe you're not going to be, Shroud or some sort of like super famous streamer if you don't have something like particularly interesting about you. But I still think you can make it to a certain degree. Like you can probably get an absolutely decent stream going in a decent community, provided you enjoy what you do and you're willing to put in the effort. Obviously, if you get lucky as well, you might get much further. Luck might be the difference between being good at what you do and making it your job, for instance. Like that could be where luck really matters. But I definitely believe more in passion and effort than I do in luck, personally.
I mean, passion and effort is also more in your control. So
exactly,
that's a good thing about it.
You could start a business and get really lucky and get super rich from that, but I wouldn't like bet my life on it, So there's the way I look at it. I would rather have things that I can control and that I can impact in some sort of way. And if I keep making, positive impact on what I'm doing, then hopefully in the long run that's going to pay off,
I found out also YouTube, it's all about hard work and quality mixed with personality. You are, after all, selling your personality. You're not wrong there. However, like I find YouTube a very difficult topic, because if you're not doing shorts, there is no algorithm pushing your videos. And how do you know if your video was good quality or bad quality if YouTube shows it to literally 0 people? So I could see that like upping your quality on YouTube and all that would be great effort and dedication and all that. But like aside from the shorts, there is absolutely no algorithm helping you in any way. Like your video doesn't get shown to anyone. I can promote it to my friends, sure, but it is. I don't know. Not entirely sure about that part. And the thing is, like, I've seen a couple people having like a video that all of a sudden like got 1,000 views or 5,000 views, and even they said it's just like, or even with my own videos that suddenly had 3,000 views. I didn't do anything different than I did with the last 20 videos, but all of a sudden that one got a couple views, and I feel like it's just literally, how does the algorithm feel today? Did we give it enough coffee and cake, and is it happy now? But I feel like it's not my influence of what happens with my videos. It is literally, I put it in the void and look what happens. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a bit of a random factor in there. What I can say though is that I think the more I've been dedicating my efforts towards my videos and my content outside of my stream has definitely paid off though.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the algorithm is working more in my favor after putting more effort into editing and that kind of stuff. But it's like you say though, it's sometimes I make a video that I am very happy with myself, and I think it's like, this is a really good video. Like, people should really like this video compared to all the other ones that I made. Like, because they like this one, and this one got, let's say, 1,000 views, right? And then you make this really amazing video, and it turns out to get like 5 views, right? Especially on like YouTube, for instance. It's been a strange place for me. Like, I can't seem to get the hang of that algorithm. So it's not always what you expect, definitely. But I think consistency in that department as well. Like, you keep improving your content, and you keep growing your audience as well, and that kind of helps pushing that algorithm in the right direction. Which I've been seeing a lot with my TikToks lately, for instance. Like, I'm always getting really good viewership on those now. But when I started out with TikTok in the beginning, I was about to give up on it because I didn't see any return from my effort, right? Like, I got pretty much nothing out of it. So another example of where I think effort over time is going to be the solution. But I also have seen examples of people just getting really, really lucky. Like, for instance, I came across a TikToker who is also a streamer who made a video kind of similar to, which was also the one that inspired me to make the progress video that I talked about earlier. And he made a similar type of a video about starting out as a streamer, which got like over 1 million views, right? And he said later that that video alone got him like a couple of thousand followers on his Twitch, right? Which is insane to think, because we both know how much work it can be to gain just 1,000, right? We're both around that mark right now.
Yeah, true.
So definitely a case of where luck can be way more important than skill. Sometimes you just get lucky, and that helps immensely. But in the long run, it's probably not gonna make your career though, if you cannot like provide what people want to watch in the long run, you know. So
True.
it certainly helps. It's a good booster. It's not going to be the solution, I don't think, and I wouldn't depend on it.
That's also another good question. How did you recognize what is your passion? I think a lot of people don't know what they're passionate about.
Yeah, I can answer that.
Go.
I started streaming, and I realized that I was enjoying it. And when I started getting a few viewers, like that feeling that we talked about earlier, where we were like floating, it's like you're literally floating afterwards, and you're like so hyped. It's like, I would describe it as a feeling of like in adrenaline, maybe. Like, I couldn't calm down for like an hour. Like, I was so high up, like I was just like completely excited for an hour straight after like one of my really good first streams. It wasn't like the first stream, but let's say a few weeks in, when I started getting a few viewers and things like that. Like, it just took me to a place that I've never been before. And I remember like something happened to me where it was like my lips were moving, and I was like speaking all these words, and I wasn't thinking about it. I was just like going on autopilot, and it was like I was floating through it. It was like yeah, isn't that what you call it, like a flow state or something like that?
Yeah.
You feel a feeling of just like everything is just like moving,
Mhm.
and you don't really think too much about it. And afterwards, I just realized, like, you know what, I really love this. Like this is what I want to do. You know, this is so amazing. This is way better than I ever thought it would be.
Yeah.
And I think that is what like really made me realize, like, this is definitely what I want to do, you know, whether it be as a hobby or as a occupation at some point. I wasn't thinking about it at the time, but all I knew was that regardless of what happens, I will not quit doing this,
Mhm.
probably for the foreseeable future.
So basically, you tried it out and then found out it's your passion.
Exactly. And before I tried it out, I was like, I want this to be my passion. I know that gaming is my passion, and I
Yeah.
would love to share this with someone else, because I know that I'm good at these games, and I think that people might enjoy watching this. But I
Mhm.
never knew that I had it in me to be a streamer, though. I never thought that I would, enjoy that part of it, just like being an entertainer and talking, to yourself basically in the
Mhm.
start, and going through all of that. But it's been probably one of the most amazing journeys that I've ever been on in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is very little ways to get like or have like a I wanna call it a dry approach to finding out what your passion is. Like obviously it will always be a great idea to test out things to find out if it's your passion. However, testing out things can be quite time consuming. You can only test out so many things in a given time span. So there's like one trick you can use to help yourself with it. Um, it's not like the definite answer to all your questions, but like one thing that helped me was grab a piece of paper and write down all the things I enjoy, regardless if it's work related or gaming related or whatever, life related. And then I made a second list with all the things that I don't enjoy. And back then I looked at the job I currently had and I realized I enjoy of all of the things, out of the 20 things that I do enjoy, I have like one crossed in my current job, and like 10 of the things that I hate, I also have those crossed in my current job. So that wasn't a very good match after all, and that also helped me decide to like chase a passion, chase something different. I guess that's one of the dry approaches without trying something out that you can just do, and see where that leads you. However, obviously, you need to find something, or you need to find a way to sustain your life, like to earn enough money that you have food, shelter, and all that.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I okay. That's on the topic before again about it, like being lucky getting 1 million followers or 1,000 followers. Do these people stick around? I guess in the end it's just like increasing the likelihood that people will stick around. Like if 10 of those people stick around and you've previously had like 20 viewers and then you now have 30, that's already completely mental. Like in general, that's already like a big step. And I guess that's where luck comes in and helps you. And I would say like the algorithm is mostly luck,
Yeah. I've
especially
also seen
yeah when you start.
Yeah. I've also seen examples of people who have been lucky, who have been getting those boosters in the start, particularly people that I got to know when I started out, who had been, getting raids, big raids from other streamers, for instance, early in their streaming career, and they got like hundreds of followers from it. And
Mhm.
then I think when they realized that that's not going to cut it, because that doesn't change anything for you
Mhm.
in particular, other than these people went over there because they were sent in your direction and they clicked the follow button to show some support, but they don't necessarily do it because they enjoy your content,
Yep.
because that's just like the nature of the whole raid mechanic. And some people just click the button and they leave and they never come back. Like, I think that can also be a very demotivating thing for some people when they realize that they have all these followers but nobody is really coming back. And they thought that was going to give them what they needed to get started, but it turns out it wasn't enough, right? Like, in some cases it might be, in some cases it don't. It might give you some visibility that helps you, provided you put in the effort. After that happens, that might be a very good thing. It definitely will help you in the right direction, but I don't think it's always enough to make the cut. Obviously, there's a difference between getting like 100 followers and like 5,000. I think if you get something like that, then it's definitely going to put you ahead of most people regardless. But
it just increases the likelihood that someone comes back, I guess.
It gives you, what it gives you is it gives you the visibility. It doesn't change anything else for you, because what you're lacking as a starting streamer is the visibility. Also, if you're starting a business, it's the same thing. Nobody knows about your business.
Yeah.
It gives you a certain like flow of people coming through, and then it's up to you to make sure that they like what they see and that they want to come back, right? So if you have like this amazing commercial running on the television that shows everybody that your food store or like whatever is open now, and then a lot of people come check it out, but it turns out your food is not great, then they're probably not coming back. But if you provide what they expect, then they might come back, right? So it's definitely a good thing, but you also got to make sure that you provide what is required to keep that trend going, right?
Absolutely. I also think it also is a bit backtracking again. I think if you do what you enjoy, like if you really enjoy streaming, if you really enjoy like the whole interaction thing, and it doesn't like it's not necessary for you to succeed to make money. I would say that it doesn't even matter if there is dips. It doesn't even matter if something goes wrong and like you have like bad streams, because you can always go back to the hobby state, right? You can always say, okay, this is not how I earn my money, but this is what I enjoy doing in my pastime.
Yeah, and chances are you're probably going to be less stressed about it as well if
Absolutely.
your expectations aren't like as high, right? I think it's also kind of a dangerous thing to, because I've said sometimes already that I consider this to be like a starting business, and that is also a dangerous thing, because when you embrace that mentality, then you're suddenly putting all this pressure on yourself that you didn't have if you were considering it to be a hobby.
Yeah, definitely.
But so I would definitely be cautious. I'm not saying that I recommend new streamers to consider their stream to be a business from the start. I think that is more a thing that you should do if you already have gotten to the stage where you're seeing like things are going in the right direction, and you have realized after a bit of experience that this is what you want to do. Like that would be the right time to start considering it that way and being more serious about it. And that is about the time where you start putting up like a serious schedule, and you start committing more of your time and efforts and doing all these kind of things, right? But I would definitely not recommend doing that from the start, because you will most likely burn out, and it will most likely kill the whole experience for you. And I think that is very important to have that stage where you are allowed to just have fun with it and just do whatever you feel like.
Yeah.
And just do those, 1.5 hour streams or whatever, right? Like live your life and try it out before you throw yourself at it completely, because it's not necessarily the right way to go for everybody.
True. If streaming as a business would fail for you guys, would you still be able to wanting to continue streaming as a hobby, or what would your thought process be? Downgrade to the hobby status? I would definitely continue streaming if I don't know. So I'm in this position where basically if like none of my businesses work out till September this year, I need to find myself a job again, which is fine. And that will also result in me streaming less. But I won't stop streaming because I really love streaming. Like it's very fun for me. I have this set time span that has to do with German law, and like the several businesses I have opened. And if it's not working out, then I'll find myself like a 20 to 30 hour job and continue streaming on the side. We keep talking about failing. This is not like this is not that easy for me to like summarize, because it's not only streaming. Like I didn't expect to be like able to live off streaming within a year. That would be very delusional. However, failing for me means with all my businesses connected, I do not make enough money to support I do not make more money than I have to pay out every month. less income than costs. Basically, that is failing for me in like my general life situation. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, well, like I mentioned earlier, like I don't have that pressure that you do because I do work full time already, and so I'm in a financially stable situation. I have proven to myself that I can make a certain amount of money from my stream already, so I still see this as like a viable side hustle, if you can call it that. Even if it never became my full-time job, it could still be like a little thing that I would make a little bit of extra money on. But mainly, I think more importantly, I would probably still be doing this, but I would have to downscale it after a while. The way that I see it now is I am throwing myself at this with everything that I've got for, I haven't actually set a time frame for it, but let's say a couple of years or something. And I think in that time, I will probably be able to tell if this is going somewhere or not, because I cannot live the rest of my life the way that I do now, because it would be too exhausting in the long run.
Yeah.
But I am willing to and dedicated to giving everything for a while to see where it leads, so that I can say at least that I followed my passion and I tried to see how far I could get with it. And if it works out, it works out. If not, I'll probably be streaming as a hobby, but not as much as I am currently, and probably not as seriously as I am currently. And I think that is still would be a great thing, and I still think that there would be a lot of people watching, and would still have a very good time. And I will also have all the friends that I've made on the path, right? Because I've got all these people that I know now, and that is an amazing thing, and I will that will stick with me regardless. So yeah, not really afraid of failing. I hope that it works out. We'll see. Time will tell. But I'll still be streaming even if it doesn't.
I mean, downgrading for me would be like, instead of streaming 6 days a week, I would go to down like 2 to 3 or 4, I guess. That is probably how the downgrade would look, like somewhere between 2 and 4 days a week.
Absolutely.
So cheesy. Do you have any questions or anything you want to add to wrap this up?
I don't really think I have any questions. I feel like we've covered the topic quite thoroughly. Not really anything that I'm wondering about at this time.
Okay, perfect. So then please tell the audience how they can keep up with you and your work.
Yeah, so I stream roughly 4 days a week, and you can find me on twitch.tv/rexn0r. Because of the work situation that I'm in, I am currently unable to keep a set schedule. So if you want to check out my specific schedule, you can always join the Discord channel, which you can find on my About section on my Twitch page. And the schedule is always updated there. But given that I am live as much as I am, you will usually be able to find me, at least whenever I'm not working. So
perfect. So yeah, thank you so much for being here. I had a lot of fun. I think it was a great talk.
Definitely. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.